Chuck Fresh, the politically correct PCGYN with Computer Care Clinic, and this is Computer Care Clinic's tip of the day. I've been getting yelled at on social media. Yes, people yell on the internet. It's amazing, isn't it? Have you ever been yelled at on social media? I'll tell you, it's no fun. But we put a video out on Introduction to Tablet Computing about, I guess it was about 3 or 4 years ago now. And, of course, these things change faster than people change their underwear. So people yelling at me say, hey, Chuck, you need to do an updated version of your tablet computing introductory video. So here it is, the Introduction to Tablet Computer 2016-2017 version. Of course, by the time 2017 rolls around, it'll be a whole different thing. We'll be plugging tablets into our eyeballs. Thank God Google Glass didn't take off. Anyway, so let's begin. Tablet computing, is it poised to take over for regular computers? And at this point, I have to say, unfortunately for my computer repair business, yes. In many cases, you don't need a computer. So a lot of you people who just play games, surf the internet, do some email, do some online banking, you really don't need a full desktop computer or even a laptop for that matter. These tablet computers may be all you need. Now, a couple of downsides, they don't typically have keyboards. Now, this is the iPad Pro in this image here, and this is the Surface Pro. These are really not tactile keyboards, and we do another video that compares the Surface Pro to the iPad Pro, and we go through how these keyboards work. They snap onto the bottom, but again, they're not full size, they're not tactile. If you're used to typing on a real keyboard or a computer keyboard, then you're going to have a little bit of a challenge getting used to these touch keyboard things we have here. So define tablet computer. It's they're the iPad, the Surface, the Kindle. You've probably seen them on the news and heard about them in the media. Essentially, it's your smartphones. If you have an iPhone, your iPad is essentially a ginormous iPhone. The only thing you can't do is make phone calls on it, although that's not entirely true because you can with Skype, FaceTime, and even Magic Jack now. And the same goes for if you have a Samsung Galaxy phone. You can take the Samsung Galaxy phone and expand that to a big 10-inch or even 18-inch version, and now you've got a giant Samsung Galaxy phone. So essentially, it's a laptop merged with a smartphone. You're going to have less features. You're not going to have as big of a storage. You're not going to have a big internal hard drive. You're not going to have a CD-ROM. You're not going to have a full-size keyboard, etc. But you're going to have a flat screen with a touch interface. So just like you use a smartphone, if you've already gotten a smartphone, the last time we did this, a lot of people hadn't ventured into smartphones yet. And interestingly enough, a lot of people went to a tablet first, and then they learned, wow, a smartphone is just like a small tablet, and then they got a smartphone. So it's happening backwards, but it's happening. Things are changing quickly. So again, there's no mouse. If you like a mouse, you're not going to be able to use one in most circumstances. There are some exceptions, and I'll tell you about those later. You're not going to have a CD or a DVD ROM or CD drive because those are essentially becoming obsolete very quickly if they aren't already. And if you don't already have a wireless router, which just about everybody does now, you can't use your internet because there's no Ethernet port on these tablet devices. And also, in most cases, there's no external storage, meaning that you can't hook up, again, with few exceptions, an external hard drive. But we'll tell you about one that you can a little bit later on. So if you've got external hard drives that you stored all your baby pictures on, your vacation photos, your family tree stuff, if you backed all that stuff up to an external hard drive, and most of these tablet PCs, you won't be able to access that information because there are no USB ports on most tablet computers. Again, there's a few exceptions. Limited in size to about a 12-inch screen in most cases, although Samsung just came out one that I think is 18.4, and you're starting to see some bigger stuff coming out now as people realize that, hey, these are kind of hard to see. And everybody got used to, with their desktop computers, big 24-inch monitors, and now you're going to bring me down to a 9 or 8-inch? Forget about it. I want that big screen so I can see everything in full living color. And you're going to run apps on these devices instead of programs. Basically, it's just a smart way to say programs. Somebody coined the term app, and everybody's got to follow everybody like a sheep. So we call them apps instead of programs. So that's the deal with tablet computers now. What can you do with a tablet? Well, you can read books like the Amazon Kindle. Remember that came out? That was one of the first tablets that came out. Well, to go a little bit further back in history, actually, Apple had one out that failed miserably, and Microsoft also dabbled in tablets, but the first time they came around, it was like, what is a tablet? These are stupid. Nobody wants these. It's, it's history, man. Let's skip that. So you can check your email just like you can on a computer. You could stream music and movies from either Apple Music, from Netflix, from Vudu, and just about any other leading media provider. So if you like to watch movies on your device, on your computer, you can do that on your tablet. And these things are portable and mobile. And the beauty of these things, which I didn't mention here, is the batteries last a long time. If you're streaming movies, you could probably, it's not uncommon to get 3, 4, 5, 6, even 8 hours out of a battery before you have to recharge it again, especially when it's new. Look at our video on battery life if you want more information on how these batteries last. You can view your online photographs. You can look at Facebook or social media accounts, and which we talk about a little bit later. And then we could do your online banking. Most of the banks have now put out mobile applications which are as secure, if not more secure, than their PC equivalents. So that's really nice. And you can do FaceTime, Skype, your Duo, which is the new Google FaceTime type thing, video chats. So just like the Jetsons, if you remember that, if you're old enough to remember the Jetsons cartoon where they had these giant video screens and they did video phone calls. Well, yes, it's now a reality and people were doing it. And a lot of people don't even have phones at home. I haven't had a home phone in 12 years. And you can play games, of course. You can play Mahjong. You can play Solitaire. You can play 3D shoot-'em-up games if your tablet has enough horsepower. Some of them do, some of them don't. Most of the games are going to be relatively simple, thinking card games and Farmville and stuff like that on these tablet devices. They don't have as much horsepower as the full computers, with few exceptions. They have mobile chips, which don't have as much of a processing capability as a full Intel i3 or a full AMD chip. And you're not going to get the graphics performance that you're going to get out of a desktop or a gaming laptop PC. So if you're a true gamer playing these shoot-'em-up games, you're probably not going to be happy with most of these tablet PCs. So keep that in mind if you are deciding whether or not to make that change. So what can't you do with a tablet? Well, if you're a typist and you learned how to type on that IBM Selectric, you remember that noise. You're not going to be really happy with this if you're doing 100 words a minute, unless you've adapted very well to the tiny little keyboards and the non-tactile spacing of them and the non-angle of it, then you're probably not going to be able to do that. But some people are very quick with 2 fingers. And also some of these tablet devices, you can actually talk, and it will transcribe your speech to text, which is what I do. I haven't really typed a text message in a long time on my Samsung Galaxy. I talk into it, and also with Apple Siri, you can do that, and a whole bunch of things. So essentially what I believe we're going to be able to talk to these machines, and it's going to transcribe our typing or just send our voice over, and we won't need to type anymore. But for those of you who want to type, you're going to have a hard time getting adjusted to that tiny little keyboard. If you do any work type stuff like real spreadsheets, you're going to find it kind of awkward to do that on a touchscreen, although some people have adapted to them. And now there's third-party solutions, third-party apps where you can do some spreadsheet work, and it makes it a little more simple. But the traditional big Excel spreadsheet with multiple pages, you're going to have a devil of a time getting used to that. We tried it and had a hard time with it. Run PC software. So if you got Adobe Photoshop that you paid $500-$600 for like we did, you're going to have a hard time with that. Video editing software is a little wonky. Audio editing software getting better, but not quite there in a multi-track environment. But again, it's getting there, and these things improve all the time. If you've got a large collection of CDs or DVDs, you're not going to be able to do that on a tablet because none of these have CD or DVD drives, as we said before. And if you want to store all your pictures, if you're a good archiver, which you should be, take a whole bunch of digital photos and you want to do something, you want to edit them or save them or put them in an album, you're just not going to have the storage on a tablet because they're very, very paltry with storage. The storage is still a little expensive. So the most you can get on most of these devices is about 256 gigabytes. And to put that in perspective, most desktop, laptop hard drives start at about 1 terabyte, which is 1,000 gigabytes. So if you want to archive stuff, unless your collections are very, very small, you're not going to be able to store a whole bunch on there. Now, what they're trying to do is push you towards cloud-based storage, like Apple's iCloud or Dropbox or Carbonite or one of these online storage things, which you do have to pay for. You have to pay an annual subscription fee. But you can store gobs of information. We store a whole bunch of stuff on Dropbox. God, I hope they're never hacked and erased. From that. And what I do is I store all my stuff to Dropbox, and then I back that up to an external hard drive. And yes, you still need a computer to do that. So Digital photo editing, there's some really cool, nifty little tricks you can do actually in social media now and online with Google and other tools. You can do some really cool photo editing right there online without even using a computer now. So, but if you're a heavy duty professional photographer working with raw files, you're going to have a hard time with these tablet PCs. And you can't use many web-based applications because they were built for a full browser, and these are kind of alternative browsers. But that's changing too because the companies that make these applications realize more and more people are going to tablet PCs or mobile, not even using a tablet PC at all. We're going to their phone. A lot of people don't even have computers, and now they're just using their smartphones. And again, these tablets are essentially like giant smartphones. So more and more companies you're going to see head towards that area where they're going to make everything mobile compatible. So by the time you're watching this, it may already be done. So what are your options in tablet PCs? These are a couple of them pictured here that we did a video on. We compared the Apple iPad Pro, which is the one to the left, and then the Microsoft Surface 4 Pro on the right here, both with their little snap-on keyboards. And but you've got some choices. Some of them run Apple iOS, which is not the Mac operating system. So if you're a big fan of Mac, you're not going to find your Mac OS on the Apple's iPad. And they have not merged the Macs with this iOS either, which is still kind of weird. But Google's Android system, which is similar, very, very similar in terms of usability and functionality and reliability to Apple's iOS. Some people say iOS is easier. Some people prefer Android because it's more customizable. You can have a little bit more fun with it. And then there's the Kindle, which is made by Amazon, which also runs a form of Android. And then there's Windows 10 on the Microsoft Surface PC, which actually is really Windows. It's really a Windows PC. So you can do everything you can do with that Surface Pro that you can on a Windows traditional computer, which is nice. So your options are, you got the Apple iPad, and then you got the Apple iPad Pro. The iPad Pro is going to have a little bit more memory, a little bit bigger screen in some cases. Then you got the Microsoft Surface Pro, a couple different flavors of that. Then you got the Amazon Kindle, which is the cheapest one if you just want to do email, read books, stream some videos, and play some games. Real inexpensive option, still powerful enough for most people. And then there's a quiver of third-party knockoffs that you can find places like Walmart and other big box stores that are really, really inexpensive and a real nice introduction to tablet computing for those of you who don't need a lot of horsepower. So let's start off and talk about Apple's iOS. Probably one of the more popular ones between this and Android. So Apple's iOS, you only got one vendor, and that's Apple, of course. So that means it's going to be pricey because there's no competition. Apple will not license their software to any other vendor. So if you want to use iOS, you have to buy an Apple device, and they're a little pricey. All the popular apps are available. In most cases, a lot of the big apps appear on Apple's iOS before they appear on Android. So, you know, if you're into the newest and latest games and you've got to have the newest version of Snapchat or whatever, if you're a kid, you probably want to get yourself the iOS to be a little bit ahead of the curve, but usually in most cases the Android follows very closely behind, if not at the same time. Apps priced from free to $100. I've seen some medical apps priced as high as $1,500, which is neat because you can plug things into the Lightning port, which is used for recharging, and also headphones in the new iPhone. And it allows you to connect some really neat devices. You can do that with the Android too, but it's a different device. Just an important note, if you do buy an iOS device and you want to use an Android charger, you can't do it. Things are changing. They're completely proprietary and completely different. And some people say the Apple has a simpler interface. And if you're used to the iPhone, if you have an iPhone, then you're going to become immediately used to Apple's iOS because it's the same exact thing, just a little bit bigger. The iPad Pro is their flagship now, and you can get these from about $600 to $1,100 plus the cost of your apps. The latest ones have about 256 gigabytes on the high end of storage. Still not a lot. The problem is it is not expandable. 256 is all you're going to get. You can't plug anything in there and store anything else. There's no SD card. There's no USB ports. So if you want to store more than that, you're going to have to subscribe to a cloud provider. You can get a 9.7 or 12.9 diagonal screen. Nice that they came up with an almost 13-inch screen. Still not as big as your desktop or a traditional laptop, but a little bit bigger than 9.7. You will need an iTunes account to do anything in the App Store. And again, only Apple accessories are supported because it is a walled garden or a closed ecosystem. Apple sticks with Apple, and that's it. Can't use anything else. Now, Google's Android. You're going to find a whole bunch more manufacturers, which means competition, which means the prices are going to be a little bit better, and you're going to get a lot more options here. You're going to get most of the popular apps, almost everything that's in the iTunes store. You're going to be able to get on the Android now. And again, apps priced similarly, free to $100. Even there's some medical stuff available for Android now. And what I like about it personally is much more customizable interface. You can change your sounds to whatever you want. You can record sounds and actually put them on there. You can do your own desktop backgrounds. You're not limited as much as you are with the iPad. I just find it a little bit easier to work with. Big manufacturers, Amazon, who makes the Kindle. Samsung does a whole bunch of stuff with their tablets, their Galaxy tablets, and Google has a couple different offerings too in the Android environment. So the biggest one, probably still the Samsung Galaxy Tab 2, and that may have changed by the time you watch this. Runs Android, of course, which Android is produced by Google. So Google owns the Android environment. However, they do license it. I believe it's free and open source. So you're going to have a lot more modifications to it and a lot more flexibility with it. Cost on the Galaxy Tab right now about $400 to $600 plus the cost of your apps. What's nice is Samsung's come out with an 18.4-inch screen on one of their Galaxies. It's insane. I think it's called the Galaxy View. Correct me if I'm wrong. Storage, a little paltry, 32 to 64 gigabytes. I'm sorry, but you can plug in a micro SD card right in the side of this thing, and it'll take you up to 128 gigabytes, maybe more by the time you watch this. So that's nice to give you a little bit extra storage. Still not as much as a desktop or a laptop, but a little bit better than you're going to get with the base model, 32 or 64. It does have a micro USB connection, which enables you to charge the device and also hook up some external devices too. You can connect it to a computer and move stuff over and archive stuff that way, which is nice. And to do things in the Google Play Store, you'll need a Google account, which probably most of you already have. Moving on to Amazon's offering. Now, Amazon's really stepped up in the world of tablet computers with their Kindle Fire. And they got a Kindle Fire HD, and the screens are beautiful on these things. They're powerful. Probably not as powerful as the Samsung or Apple offerings, but pretty darn good, and they do hold their own. We have one of these awesome, and it's actually a pretty neat little device. More of a, well, I get in trouble when I say they're more of a toy, but all these tablets are essentially more of a toy. They're not really tools, they're more of toys, and we go into that in a different video too, and you can flame that one if you want. Runs a form of Android that's been specially modified by Amazon to work with their store. And cost, you can get these things as cheap as $49 for a base one if you just want something for the kids to knock around, play some games, do some homework on it. You can run some forms of word processing on this too, and they can actually do homework, social media, take pictures, watch Netflix on these things. You can do all that stuff on a $49 Kindle Fire. Of course, it's not as cool as having a picture of an apple on the back of something. Screen size is everywhere from 6 to 10 inches. Really surprised Amazon hasn't put out a bigger one, although by the time you watch this, they may have something huge by then. 16, 32, or 64 gig storage, but expandable with a micro SD port, and you will need an Amazon account to log on to this thing and buy anything from Amazon store in terms of apps or music or movie or anything. Now, getting into the heavier duty stuff, we're looking at the Microsoft Surface Pro. Now, here's where the exceptions start. This actually runs a real version of Windows 10. Now, if you're stuck in the past, you may have heard that, and a lot of people are, man, and I apologize for that. Oh, man, it runs a version of Windows that doesn't do crap. Well, this new version of the Surface Pro, anything actually in the last 3 years, actually runs a full version of Windows 10, which means that you can print to your conventional Windows-oriented printers. You can actually plug a USB device like a mouse or a real keyboard or an external hard drive, and it will recognize it. And it's going to run your old Windows software. You can actually run Photoshop on this. You can run Quicken or QuickBooks. You can run everything you can run on a Windows computer because it essentially is a Windows computer packed into a tablet package, which is pretty darn cool in my opinion. Windows 8 actually was built for tablet computing. Microsoft thought everything was going tablet, and they may have been a little premature. They've kind of fixed it up with 10, which gives you the option of running tablet or desktop, laptop, but it's a real nice little environment here. Again, they run full Windows 10. Prices range from 500 and they have this Surface Book thing, which is essentially really jacked up. It's an amazing machine if you haven't seen it. They actually pack an i7 processor in this thing, a full i7 processor with 4 cores, I think, or it may even be 8, and actually dedicated has a dedicated graphics card for those of you who want to actually game on a tablet, which is really nice because you can pack this thing in a backpack and you can just fully game. You can run your 3D shoot 'em up games on your $3,200 Microsoft Surface Book, which is insane. Storage on these things anywhere from 128 gigabytes to a terabyte of solid state storage, and that's what drives the price up typically to $3,200. And of course, you've got an SD card in this thing and USB ports, so you can plug your USB external hard drive. You can actually archive on these things. So if you wanted to get rid of your desktop computer, you essentially, and this is dangerous, you essentially could replace your desktop or traditional laptop with a Surface Book and actually get the same usage and the same benefits as you would with a laptop or desktop computer, a traditional one. So Microsoft getting as close as you can to a actual replacement for your desktop or laptop with the Surface Pro. So take a look at these if you haven't. Most of the big box stores have them. Again, this is the iPad Pro on the left and then the Surface Pro 4 on the right. Take a look at them, put your hands on them, go to your big box store and try them out and see which one works for you. If you want to switch, if you want to get out of your desktop and out of your laptop and into a tablet. But again, it really depends what you want to do, and we've got some other videos on that too, so please like and subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of great free information right here on this channel, on Computer Care Clinic's YouTube channel. My name is Chuck Fresh with Computer Care Clinic. Please leave your questions and comments in the area below this video, and if you've got any great notes or any experiences that you had, please share them with the world. That's what makes it a little bit better for all of us. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next video.